Heels are better than baby faces in pro wrestling, and that's not an opinion, that's a fact. Heels are better than faces because, for one, they usually have the better personality, and two, they're the ones that make the storylines interesting. Imagine a storyline with two baby faces who always took the high road, were morally correct, and did everything by the book. I've seen that storyline play out in real life, and it's boring. I want chaos, trauma, animosity, and a superstar that is great at bringing that out of someone is JBL. JBL is a great role model for heels in pro wrestling. He managed to get an entire generation of wrestling fans to agreeably hate him, and that deserves respect. Like in 2004, JBL would send out a public service announcement that he hates all Mexicans. He was disrespecting Mexicans every chance he got, but there's one moment that's so disrespectful that it stands out for the rest, and it's still talked about to this day, and that's the Border Patrol segment. On the April 8th, 2004 episode of SmackDown, JBL would go and hunt for Mexicans that were illegally trying to cross the US border. He would eventually come across a herd of Mexicans, and he would literally chase them back down south of the border with a giant smile on his face. You could tell by the look on his face that he enjoyed every second of filming that segment. It was like a dream come true for him. I could tell that JBL and Donald Trump would probably be best friends just off that moment alone. I could already imagine JBL and Donald Trump getting together and spawn camping by the US border for Mexicans trying to come over illegally. There was also that time that Shawn Michaels was broke and he didn't have any money, so he went to JBL to go ask for some, but JBL will only give it to him if he worked for him. So Shawn basically became JBL's slave for the next couple of months, because why would JBL give him the money for free when he could use Shawn to his benefit? It's a classic JBL move. Another top tier heel in WWE was Edge. Edge was the ultimate opportunist. Any opportunity that came his way, he capitalized on it. And this includes women. In the 2000s, Matt Hardy and Lita were a well-known couple. Also, they were on the same brand, meaning that they were always in communication with each other and they could always travel together. The relationship was running smoothly until Matt got injured. Matt's injury left him bedridden at home, which meant that Lita was on the road alone. Edge, who was a married man at the time and one of Matt's best friends, realized this and tried to get himself a 2-for-1 special by getting with Lita. Edge gets with Lita and they become a low-key couple. Until Matt finds out. Matt finds out and turns into a Hall of Fame crash out. He goes off on Edge and Lita on blog pages and on his website, but at the same time, he would try to rekindle the relationship with Lita. Like, bro, if she wants to play in the streets, then let her play in the streets. But Matt was blinded by love, so he tried to save her. Matt asked Edge if he could go to SmackDown while him and Lita tried to rekindle the relationship on Raw. But Edge was like, sorry, little bro, but she's mine now. Then Matt turned into an even bigger crash out. Matt and Edge would get into a feud where, in the end, Edge would win, sending Matt to SmackDown. So, in the end, Edge would win the feud, take his girl, stay on Raw, and eventually win the WWE Championship. While Matt Hardy loses the feud, his girl goes to SmackDown and ends up getting P. Diddy'd by Viscera in the Royal Rumble. Edge and Lita would eventually split, but Edge, being the opportunistic heel that he was, would get himself into another relationship, this time with SmackDown General Manager Vicky Guerrero. After 9 months of being together, Edge would propose to Vicky Guerrero and they eventually get married. But on their wedding day, Edge would get exposed for cheating. Again, at this point, it's clear that Edge is just trying to build a roster. He's not a one-woman man, he's just trying to get his start in 5. But he's so bad at sneaking that he keeps getting caught. And the griminess of Edge doesn't even stop there. He was grimy to the men too. Like, he went to John Cena's childhood home and slapped his dad right in the face. And at that point, your only option is to shoot him. He also finessed the Money in the Bank briefcase out of Mr. Kennedy, and he beat up, bloodied, and gave a concerto to a 57-year-old Ric Flair. Edge was the shadiest heel of the Ruthless Aggression era. There was not a more sadistic heel than Edge in the 2000s. Well, maybe Kane. 2003 Kane is a prime example of how childhood trauma affects you as an adult. When Kane ripped off his mask, you could tell he was getting flashbacks from everyone that bullied him as a kid. The times when the adults were disgusted by him that they couldn't even lie to make him feel appreciated, the girls who reject him and say that he looks like Jabba the Hutt, and guys would call him even worse names. And even blind people, even though they couldn't see, they could just sense the ugly. Obviously, this would invoke a feeling of anger out of him, and he took it out on his tag team partner RVD and Eric Bischoff, who clearly represented the teachers and students who bullied him. JR, who in Kane's eyes reminded him of the school counselor that used to patronize him as a kid, would try to calm him down and try to understand why he was acting out. But Kane wasn't trying to get understood, he was trying to have a pig roast. and that's what he'd do by setting JR on fire and roasting him like it was the 4th of July. Now, in common situations like this in schools, there'll always be that one kid that will try to stand up to the bully. And in this situation, it was Shane McMahon, because Kane tombstoned Linda McMahon on the Raw stage. Shane saw this and he wanted all the smoke. Kane and Shane would go back and forth with the craziest attacks. Shane kicks Kane into a dumpster fire. Kane would come back by electrocuting Shane's balls. Shane would bait Kane into a limo, only to drop a brick on the gas pedal and have it crash into a trailer. And in the end of the feud, he would end up victorious. Kane was an A-tier menace in 2003, and the only other person that was up there with him is 2007 to 2009 Randy Orton. In 2007, somebody laced Randy Orton's weed, and then he permanently started hearing voices in his head. He started moving more snake-like, devious, and he became the #1 customer of Johnson & Johnson's baby oil. But more importantly, he started partaking in heinous actions. When Randy Orton turned into the Viper, he slightly modified the way he wrestled in the ring. And in that modification, he added an infamous move to his regular arsenal, the punt kick. It all started with John Cena. On an episode of Raw, Randy Orton would interfere in John Cena's match with Booker T, and after the match, he would attempt to punt Cena in the skull. But then his Viper senses kicked in, and he realized Cena's dad was at ringside. He goes to ringside, he grabs Cena's dad, he pulls him over the barricade and punts him in the skull, and then walks away like nothing happened. No remorse or anything. Weeks later, he beat up his dad right in front of a handcuffed Cena with jubilation. And it doesn't even stop at the superstars of their family. He went for the boss's head too. In January 2009, with Vince, Stephanie, and Randy in the ring, Randy would call Stephanie worthless, and Vince would get angry and demand an apology. But Randy Orton couldn't backtrack on what he said. He had to stand 10 toes down. Vince was about to fire him, but Randy slaps him in the face and punts him in the skull. And rightfully so, because you're not gonna embarrass me in front of thousands of people and get away with it. You're gonna take this kick to the skull, and you're gonna like it. Stephanie would stick Shane on Randy, only for Shane to lose in their match at No Way Out, and then the next night on Raw, he gets kicked in the head too. After Shane gets kicked in the head, Stephanie wants to come out and start crying like she wasn't the one that sent him to fight Randy in the first place. Since Stephanie wants to cry, Randy gives her something to cry about by hitting her with the RKO. And this action gets Triple H involved. Triple H, as revenge, breaks into Orton's house and beats him up. And in return, Randy Orton would kiss Triple H's wife on television. So, in the end, Randy would have the last laugh by winning the WWE Championship at Backlash by punt kicking Triple H in the head. Also, Randy Orton squad wiped the entire new Nexus with a punt kick. So yeah, the punt kick has to be the easiest, deadliest move that you can hit on somebody. And it doesn't matter how big or how small you are, anybody could get it. And Randy Orton abused that power. So overall, heels are better than faces. And every heel that was in this video is for sure at the top of the list in terms of the best heels of all time. So anyways, stay safe, guys.